am a grateful, recovered alcoholic and drug addict. My sobriety date is December the 8th of 2019. I live in Chardon, Ohio. I get to fulfill my dream today of helping other struggling addicts by working in the field of recovery.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lori, for coming out and being willing to share your journey with us, taking the time out of your day. We really, really appreciate it.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. So let's just get started right at the beginning. So let's talk about childhood. What was it like? Did you grow up with both of your parents? What was school life like? Siblings, that kind of thing.
I grew up in Ashtabula. I came from an alcoholic home. Both my parents are alcoholics. There was a lot of dysfunction and abuse in the home, a lot of brutality at the hands of my father. I don't know if you're familiar or you've ever heard of alopecia, but it is hair loss that's triggered by stress. By the second grade, I had alopecia, and I went through all through grade school. My eyelashes were gone, my eyebrows were gone. I had bald spots that traveled all over my head. So I always felt very ugly. And I'll tell you, even after I went into remission, I carried that feeling of ugliness with me for a very long time. No matter where I was or who I was with, her shoes were prettier, she had nicer hair, they had a nicer family. And it was really bad through grade school. I had a lot of periods where I had bald spots all over my head. If you can imagine those mean ass kids in school, you know, it was not pleasant.
So do you remember like the first time that you started experimenting with drugs or alcohol?
I was very young.
Right.
I always hung out with older people. And my best friend was just a year or two older than me, and she had older siblings, and we always ran around with them. And it's funny, I actually remember, I grew up by Lake Erie, and we lived on the beach. And I remember going to beach parties and dumping my beer in the sand and covering it up and pretending to be drunk.
Wow.
Just because at the time I thought that was cool.
Right.
You know, and those are the people that I surrounded myself with, were the people that drank and, you know, partied, as we called it, you know, then. And I tell you, it wasn't long before I went from the girl that was pretending to be drunk to the girl that had to be carried home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I drank and used my entire life. I never drank like a normal person. I always drank to the point of obliviation, right out of the gate. I was getting high every morning before school. I was getting high at lunch. And so if I wasn't skipping school, I was there physically, but I wasn't there. My high school sweetheart was someone that I used with, and so the natural thing for me to do was to move in with him. And then at that point, cocaine was introduced in our relationship. I don't remember where or how or whatever, but we were very heavy drug users and drinkers, and very heavy fighters. You know, we would just fight each other, beat the crap out of each other, and then make up. And so I married him.
Of course.
I married him. And then I got pregnant with my daughter. I think I was like 22. I got pregnant with my daughter. And I think as early as then, I knew that the lifestyle I was living wasn't a healthy one. And I knew that a lot of our fighting and a lot of our problems in our relationships were a direct result. So I told myself while I was pregnant with my daughter that, okay, now you're going to be a mom. Now you're going to straighten up and you're going to give your kids a different kind of life. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. It didn't last. And I quickly got pregnant with my son. So there I am in my early 20s. And I now have 2 kids in diapers and whatnot. I raised my kids in a haze of drugs and alcohol. You know, I said I loved them, and I do love them, but I don't know that I really knew how to love anybody.
You know, as they were growing up, did you stay with the father?
I stayed with the father. We were married for, I want to say 16, 17 years. Towards the end of our relationship, it was very volatile. So many fights. I would leave and not come home. I was never faithful to him. And I would stay out. I would leave to go out with the girls for a few drinks and not come home until the next day because I was with people that had what I wanted.
Right.
And then the end of our marriage, one of our very good friends went into treatment and got sober. He got out and I watched him build his business back. I watched him, he looked so good and talked so good and seemed so happy and healthy. I started having eyes for him. And I chased after him. I wanted what he had in every way.
Right.
And ultimately, I left my husband and my children. I wanted to get sober. I knew my life was a train wreck. I had started, prior to that, I started the trips to the institutions and the hospitals, the psych wards, wanting to kill myself. And I knew it was a result of my using, but I didn't know I had a choice. I actually believed that was my lot in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a choice. And then when I saw this friend of ours get better, I was like, wow. And I was very attracted to him. And so I used that as an excuse to leave my husband and my children because I was going to go get sober and I was going to be with this man and we were going to live this happy, healthy life. I devastated my kids. And even though I wanted to be with this man that was sober, I couldn't stop using. And I was edging closer and closer and closer to death. I was edging closer and closer to taking a whole bottle of pills and just ending my misery. The only thing that kept stopping me was it would be my children that would find me. And I didn't want to do that to him. So I wound up in recovery. Ironically enough, I went to my ex-husband we weren't divorced yet, I went to him and I was just sobbing and crying and said, I can't stop. I'm going to die. And he made some calls and got me into an inpatient recovery place. So I got out and I thanked my husband who supported me and got me in by going with this man that I had eyes for. I stayed sober for just over a year. I was attending meetings of recovery. I was half-ass working a 12-step program. In the meantime, this man that I was with, he started using again and drinking again. And so I wanted to be with him. So I did too. Ironically enough, several years into my relationship, I wound up moving in with him. And ironically enough, this man that I abandoned my husband and my children for, to have this sober, happy life with, wound up having a heart attack in our bed and dying as a direct result of our using.
So
how's that for karma?
Yeah. So sorry to hear that.
So then I really had an excuse to drink and to use. I stayed with his body in the hospital for a couple of hours. I just couldn't leave him. And I came home and I searched his pockets for the substance we were using. And it was just a matter of another couple of days before I finished it. I had kind of resigned myself to the fact, again, that this was my lot in life. This was how I was going to live, not thinking I had a choice.
So what was the turning point, you would say?
December 7th of 2019. I cracked my first beer at 9 o'clock in the morning. The first time I ever drank in the morning.
Wow.
My son calls me. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren. And my son calls me and says, Mom, we're coming out today. We're going to go shooting. We're going to ride a 4-wheeler. We're fishing. I live on 30 acres and on a beautiful lake. And I adore my children, and I'm over the moon for my grandchildren. And my son calls me and says, Mom, we're coming out and we're going to spend the day. And all I could think of was, oh, shit, not today. And the train was rolling already. Now, most people, you would think I would stop drinking because my family was coming. I'm an alcoholic. By the time my beautiful family got to my house that afternoon, I was pig drunk. And I continued to drink the whole time they were there. The morning of December 8th, I woke up and I realized, and I had so much shame. I was so ashamed of myself. I would wake up and I would pray to God to please kill me. Just take me out of my misery. I'm never going to be a good mother. I'm never going to be a good example to my grandchildren. Just take me. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I would pass back out again. And then I would wake up and I'd be mad at God that I was awake. Well, because of my 2 previous times in recovery, I still had I had a few friends from recovery that would check in with me every once in a while. And of course, I would tell them everything was great and I was fine. But I had this one friend in particular that just kept it up. And he would send me random texts, are you ready to come back yet? The morning of December 8th, or finally by this time it was the afternoon, because like I said, I would wake up and go to sleep and wake up and go to sleep. And I texted him and I said, I'm ready to come back. So he called me as soon as he read the text, and he said, and we talked, and he said, get your ass out here. He goes to recovery meetings, 12-step recovery meetings. He said, get your ass out here. I'm going to feed you and we're going to a meeting. And I said, okay. I went to that meeting on December 8th. And I've been sober ever since.
Wow.
I suddenly had this will that I wanted. I wanted my life to change. I wanted it to be different. So I followed all of the things that they told me to do. The program I'm in requires a sponsor, or suggests, maybe, if you want to say. I got a sponsor, and she started taking me through the steps of the program. I was going to as many meetings as possible. I was trying to do everything that was suggested of me to do.
So how did your life change?
Oh my gosh. I found a new freedom and a new happiness. A happiness and a peace that in all of my years I've never felt at peace. Even when things were calm and good in my life, in my using and drinking, I never had peace. And I was always living on this impending doom, My life got better in so many ways. I have peace today. Even in times of trouble, there's still a sense of peace. There's still a sense of, no matter what happens, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I made amends to my children. One of the part of the program is taking an inventory of ourselves and recognizing my defects, and then making a list of people that I've harmed. By doing that, I was able to make amends to my children. When I made amends to my daughter, at the end, I asked her, what can I do to make things right? What can I do to make things better? And without skipping a beat, just one tear came down her face. And she said, whatever you're doing now, just keep doing that. That's how you can make it up to me.
Wow.
So, the person I was before, my children would never have wanted me to drive their kids, to be alone with their kids.
Right.
I couldn't be responsible. I'm a grandma to my 3 grandchildren, and I'm a good example to them.
Yeah.
I learned how to help others unselfishly. I would always do something for people because there was something in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of me has changed. I don't need recognition. I do things for people in silence today because I don't need to be recognized for what I do. The recognition is within inside of me and from my higher power.
Right. It's beautiful. So what are some things that you have been able to do over the last 2 years that you would not have been able to do in active addiction. And you did touch on this a little bit, but maybe some experiences that you had, or job changes or things like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. I get to go to work every day with women in recovery. I work in a residential house with women brand new in recovery. And I get to share my experience, strength, and hope with them. I get to show them that we do recover.
Absolutely.
I just bought a new car for the first time by myself.
Wow.
You know what I mean? With my own money and no one else on the note, just me. And I get to show, look, girls, look what we can do. Look what we can do.
Yeah. So what have you learned from your addiction?
Oh my gosh. I learned that I have a choice. I have a choice in what happens in my life. Not only what happens, but I have a choice in how I'm going to feel. When bad things happen, I can choose to feel sorry for myself. I can choose to be a victim, or I can choose to work through it. And I can choose to find the gratitude in every situation, and I can choose to be happy. I've learned that I am worthy. I've learned how to begin to love myself. It's a process I'm still in. But I know that I'm loved and I'm valuable. I've learned that I don't have to repeat the cycle.
Right.
It ends with me.
Absolutely.
And I can be a good example today.
And for somebody that's out there struggling to get sober, do you have any words of wisdom that maybe helped you at first or that you could share?
Oh my gosh. Close your mouth and listen. Listen. Surround yourself with people in recovery that are doing this thing. Take suggestions from them. If you get into a 12-step program, thoroughly and honestly work the steps. Willingness and action have been key to my recovery. Admitting complete defeat and powerlessness, and then being willing to do the work to recover.
Well, Lori, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out and sharing your beautiful story with us. You are proof that there is hope, that we do recover. Like you said, you are absolute living proof, and you seem to have such a beautiful life. And with 2 years, that it's just amazing how your relationships can grow in 2 years.
Yes.
And what you can accomplish. So I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, it is my pleasure. It is my pleasure to give back what was so freely given to me. I just want to make a difference.
And you are today. So thank you so much.